Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Eruvin. We are up to Perek Zayin Mishnah Daled. Today's Mishnah should be Le'ilu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Ranbaiv Neliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Menuchatam Began Eden. Amen. The Mishnah continues discussing courtyards that are separated by a ditch that is 4 tefachim wide and 10 tefachim deep. Natan alav neser shurachav 4 tefachim. If one placed a board that is 4 tefachim wide over the ditch so that it serves as a bridge connecting the two courtyards, whoever has the art scroll elucidated can see it brought down in diagram A of our Mishnah. And similarly, if there are two balconies facing each other across a Reshut Harabim and they are connected by a 4 tefach wide board over the Reshut Harabim, which would be diagram B, me'arvin shnayim, they may make 2 independent eruvs, v'im ratzu me'arvin echad, or if they want, they may make 1 eruv, because the board serves as an entranceway connecting the two areas. The residents of the courtyards on both sides of the ditch, or the residents of the houses with the balconies separated by a Reshut Harabim, may join in a common eruv, because they are connected by a bridge. Now the commentaries explain they may form 2 independent eruvs if they choose, because the board covers only 4 tvachim of the ditch. Therefore, although the board acts as an entrance between them and allows them to join in a single eruv, they may also join in 2 independent eruvs, because the ditch on either side of the board still separates the courtyard. Pachot mikan, however, if the board is less than 4 tefachim wide, me'arvin shnayim then me'arvin echad, they may make 2 independent eruvs, but they may not make 1 eruv, since people are afraid to walk across a bridge that is narrower than 4 tefachim. It does not serve as an entranceway connecting the two areas. And that is the end of Mishnah Daled. Mishnah Hey now continues. Matben sheben shtei chatzerot, if a haystack separates between 2 courtyards, gavoa 10 tefachim, and it is 10 tefachim high, me'arvin shnayim, the residents of the courtyards may make 2 independent eruvs, ve'en marvin echad, but they may not make 1 eruv. Now the commentaries explain the haystack is like a wall, since it is 10 tefachim high and it separates between the 2 courtyards along their entire boundary. They are considered completely separate from each other, and they must therefore make separate eruvs. And the commentators explain, although the hay will eventually be fed to animals, the haystack nonetheless separates the courtyards, because even a temporary barrier is a valid partition. Now, Mishnah 3 stated that animal food that will remain in place only temporarily does not legally fill a ditch and thereby connect 2 courtyards. This is because a ditch is considered a ditch until it is permanently filled. In this Mishnah, however, the animal food is actually separating the 2 courtyards, and even a temporary separation is considered a valid partition, as the Tosfot Yom Tov explains. The Mishnah continues, Elu ma'achilin mikan, although the haystack is what separates them into 2 independent eruvs, the residents of this courtyard may guide their animals to eat from their side of the haystack. Ve'elu ma'achilin mikan, and the residents of the other courtyard may guide their animals to eat from their side of the haystack. Now, the residents don't have to be concerned that their animals will eat so much straw without anyone noticing that the height of the haystack will shrink to less than 10 tefachim and no longer be considered a partition. The 2 courtyards in such a situation where it would become lower than 10 tefachim would then become 1, and carrying would be forbidden unless they joined in 1 eruv. But you don't have to be concerned for this, because the partition is not considered invalidated until its height has been reduced to less than 10 tefachim along a section wider than 10 amot. And it's highly unusual for animals to eat that much during one Shabbat. And the commentators explain, if the haystack is reduced to below 10 tefachim for a 10 amah stretch or less, the lowered portion is considered an entranceway and does not invalidate the partition. And like we said, in order for it to become invalidated, its height has to be reduced to less than 10 tefachim along a section wider than 10 amot, and it's highly unusual for animals to eat that much during one Shabbat. And the commentaries explain, based off the Gemara on page 79a, the Mishnah permits the residents only to guide their animals to the haystack, by blocking them from going elsewhere, but they may not feed their animals from the haystack by hand, because when people feed their animals, they take large amounts of food at a time, and they may unwittingly invalidate the partition. They may not even lead the animals to the haystack because they may forget and take the food from the haystack themselves. Therefore, they are only permitted to guide their animals by blocking them from going anywhere else. The Mishnah continues, Nit'amet ateven me'asara tefachim, if before Shabbat the height of the haystack became less than 10 tefachim along a section wider than 10 amot. And the commentators explain if the breach occurred on Shabbat, it's too late for the courts to make a joint eruv. So obviously referring to if it happened before Shabbat. And the Rav gives an alternative case, or we said, if before Shabbat the height of the haystack becomes less than 10 tefachim along a section wider than 10 amot, or along the entire boundary of the courtyards, if it's not wider than 10 amot, Ma'arvin echad, they may make one eruv, then Ma'arvin shnaim, but they may not make two independent eruvs, since the haystack no longer qualifies as a partition. The two courtyards are considered one, for which only a single eruv can be made. And that is in Rabotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have a Erev Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.